Well, I don't see either of you here, but we are going to go ahead. It's about 10 after 8 my time. Module 10, what are we going to do? We're going to study about e-discovery, case management, large quantity of tasks and software to create a time map, keep using sources. We're going to do plan and schedule hearing dates, which is not super easy. And then the time map. Time mapping, there's a brand name that's called Time Map, and of course you can use other methods to map out a timeline. So what software helps create a timeline for one case? And we are talking about spoliation remedies, and I did do a post, starter post on that one. And we will have the live classroom. So let's just take a look at the text and get some content from there. So let's search for time map. We probably don't want to use the preface, but this will link you to or give you page numbers to use later, but I would suspect that you would like to go right to time map and case map. Time map is integrated in with case map. And we are on page 309. You can use a trial version of it. And you can create a PowerPoint presentation from it. So I would use some of these pages just to get an idea. And there are some examples, of course, if you go ahead for video case studies and so on using time map. And the appendix too, of course. It does talk a little bit about CaseSoft. I think I almost missed that, didn't I? Timeline Express, so there are some, here's page 305 with some other types. CaseSoft is a different tool. And we can also look competitors case we'll take a look at one here. Case Fleet has its own, I believe that has a time map. It's a competitor to Case Map, you might say, but I believe that it does have some functionality. As far as, okay, chronology. In other words, timing. Not sure if it does as good of a job with timing. Okay, case chronology with timelines under Case Fleet. Okay, that should help. But try casefleet.com. I'll pop that into the, well, it doesn't help to pop it into the chat, does it? You can't watch that on recording. I'll just have to put it up for you. You'll just have to type it. I'll put it on the whiteboard. If I can here. Doesn't want to do it. This is the one I put it up on the whiteboard. Keep thinking about databases, software features, law office management. Calendaring of cases. Why would we use an electronic calendar? It's quantity of cases, several hearings in one case, problems in scheduling scenarios. What is a scenario? Scenario involves if questions. If Judge Calland is only available some days. It has to be in another court at other days. And then, of course, what's another if? If the other side has a valid excuse for not attending some days. If we have to give a certain number of days notice, and that is important. So what if we have to worry about when the judge is available? If the other side has valid excuse, we have to give a certain number of days notice. You know, if the attorney involved can only come certain days. It gets kind of not complicated exactly, but detailed. And if it's detailed and if there's more than one possible choice, if we have to pre-schedule or even model how to do it the case faster. So we're worried about getting service to process. We're worried about cancellation, double scheduling. I don't want to make it sound harder than what it is, but we want to be able to model thinking through the process, not just simply because of coping with the technology itself, but the rules behind what we're doing with the technology. Am I going to give you the correct rules for your jurisdiction? No. Okay, so we're going to use made-up rules to make it easier to do all on one page of an Excel sheet. They are closer to what you would have done in the child protection cases than in most civil cases. Short time limits. So it's not the actual rules, but the counting formulas are very similar. Counting methods are very similar state to state. Not the days, exact days of notice. Most will be longer. Most will require a longer wait after service. More notice. So more notice is usually needed. So at this point, if you're not comprehending what I'm saying, make some notes and contact me by course message or phone. There's difficulties in preserving possible scenarios or timelines when they're on an erasable board. So what are you going to do? Take a picture of them? There's difficulties with print calendars when we deal with quantity cases and hearings. So we're going to do a 3-day and a 14-day count. But you may do it wrong, so I wanted you to preserve how you did the count. By typing numbers, as I do. The reason is if they change it, let's say they change, let's say that you had an actual 3-day notice, which you probably won't, but let's say you had a 3-day notice and the judges of your state Supreme Court decide, no, that should be a 7-day, and the 14-day has been changed to 30 days, or maybe you never had a 3-day and a 14-day, it was always 7 days and 30 days, okay? If you preserve what you did so it can clearly be checked, the lawyer can just make adjustments and say, no, we have to give 7 days on this and 30 days on this. Or if it is 3 days, and 14 days on the short notice and the long notice. And you didn't count it right, it's easy to tell because you're typing the actual numbers of the count over to the right of your Excel sheet. What do I mean by notice? What I mean by notice is we prepare a paper that says there's a motion hearing in front of the judge. Then we send somebody or you yourself. Usually we used to do it physically. You don't have to do it physically now. You can do it by what they call e-notice, e-service, which is kind of a glorified email, but it has better proof, you might say. Kind of a glorified messaging where you let them know not only when the court hearing is, but you give them a notice of exactly what the court hearing is about. When you give them notice, let's say you gave them notice today, which is Tuesday. Tuesday would not count. That would still be a 0, not a 1. You have not given 1 day notice by handing that to them on a Tuesday. It's not 1 day until Wednesday. And that kind of makes common sense. But on Wednesday morning, it still counts 1 full day, which sounds unfair because it may not be 24 hours. But that's why they typically do not allow 1 day notice, is because if you give notice by some e-delivery system or by sending a messenger over to their law office and putting it on the desk there, if you give them notice at 4:30 p.m. and the hearing is for 9 a.m. the next day, that would seem very unfair because you've only given them 1 day notice. How about if you did that on a Friday and the court hearing was on Tuesday? That seems like lots of notice, doesn't it? What about if it was a Monday holiday and you brought it over there at 4:30 after the lawyer had already left? The lawyer has left, maybe the head paralegal has left. You just have somebody there who's a legal assistant or even an intern. They receive the notice, and it says that they're giving you notice for a Tuesday hearing. Well, they get notice on a Friday at 4:30. Let's say your side gets notice on a Friday at 4:30. The hearing is Tuesday at 9 in the morning. Basically, it's really no notice, but legally, it's only 1 day notice, even though it's parts of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's parts of 5 days, but legally it's only a 1 day notice. So how do you turn what seems like it might be parts of 5 days into 1 day? And how do you document it? You go down the right side of the Excel sheet and you put service or 0. What I prefer to do is put don't count. That's my preference. So don't count for Friday. That's just my own preference. And then for Saturday, I either put a 0 or a don't count. And Sunday, since that's also a holiday, 0 or don't count. Okay. So you got Friday doesn't count, Saturday doesn't count, Sunday doesn't count, and then what about Monday? That's still a 0 because it was a holiday. Okay. Courthouse closed. And then Tuesday would be 1. And I know that doesn't make sense, but it's the rules. But if you look at the unfairness of getting basically no notice, you get notice on Friday at 4:30 p.m. Put it like I say, put yourself in their shoes. And Tuesday is the first time you're back at work, and there it is sitting on the desk. You're totally unprepared because no one was even there. If somebody was there, they only had a half-hour notice. They're not really going to get organized and really be back after the firm meeting in the morning. They won't really have time to prepare for this case. How are they going to get to court prepared at 9 in the morning with basically zero notice? It's legally 1 day notice, and of course, very few states will allow a 1 day notice. Okay, it starts to get reasonable though when you realize that even in emergency cases, usually they'll give you at least 3 days notice in your state's rules. So Wednesday, so Thursday, 3, and that would be okay. You could have the court hearing on a Thursday then if it was a 3 day notice. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 don't count, then a 1, 2, 3. So you have parts of 7 days before the hearing can be held. And but this is considered a 3 day notice. The third day does count as fully notified on a 3 day count. So here is the problem. You are assigned to assist Attorney Adams and legal assistant Amici in organizing the Johnson case. Your firm has been using pen or pencil and a printed calendar supplemented by an erasable board. Then they can propose timelines, but you would prefer to use Excel. There are 2 important hearings to schedule. They all have to be for times and dates when Judge Kellens is available to assign. As the local rules assign 1 judge to hear all hearings. Now, it'd be easy if you could just flip judges back and forth, but we're going to state that this is the kind of case in which our fictional state requires that 1 judge hear the case all the way through unless the judge is disqualified or sick or something. So it's always going to be Judge Kelland. There's no shortcut of just saying, well, we can have it whenever we want. We can have it during his vacation. We'll just assign another judge. We're not doing that because he's already studied the case. It's the kind of a case that your state requires be before him. So the first hearing has to be on a date that allows you to serve a 3 business day written notice to the other side. The typed notice has to include the date of the hearing. Assume that a 3 business day notice requires you to serve a notice 3 days in advance. You cannot count Saturdays, Sundays, and Monday holidays and cannot count the day of service of the notice. But you do count the date of the hearing, and that's basically what I was just going over. So you have the zeros or don't counts. However many there are. So type those out, and then of course, at some point you have to do the 1, 1, 2, 3. Why so strict? And I did explain this. A person can notify a law office. It's not fair if you've only given them a 10-minute notice, even though technically it would be 1 day. Or like I say, if you didn't know the rules, you might think it was 4 days or 5 days, but it's really only a few minutes if you allowed that. The longer notice hearings typically are easier to meet, easier to count. So it's an easier count. You have to schedule another hearing too, but you have to give a 14-day notice. This is a little tricky because the assignment says that we cannot pre-schedule it in the sense that we cannot schedule or serve notice of the second hearing until the day after the first hearing is completed. We don't really know if we won or lost, but we're assuming that we may have to lose the first hearing. Then we'll hear, we'll get the official order, and then the day after that hearing, we will schedule a second hearing. The date of the hearing has to be the first time Judge Kelland is available after you have given the correct notice. Now this time, we can count Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays as long as the 14th day is not on a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday. And again, do not count the day of service, but do count the 14th day. And I will show you this. I will open up a PowerPoint. And here's the live lecture quiz phrases: calendar to accommodate Judge Kelland. So now we are showing the PowerPoint. So here is January 1, 2015, and I do have days of the week. So this is a holiday, which is the January 1st is a holiday. It's a Thursday, but the courthouse is closed. Remember that we can only schedule when Kelland is actually hearing cases. So the service of process has been made on a Friday. We don't count this one. So you could use don't count, or you could use 0. Saturday, the courthouse is closed. We can't count that, so we could put a 0 there. It doesn't really work, does it? And that's a Sunday, so we'll put a 0 there. Is this a Monday holiday? If January 5th is not a holiday, we could schedule it there. But the problem is we have 0, 0, 0. So how can we schedule it with only 1 day notice? You can't. So is this a 2? Is this a 3? And based on our rules, could we have heard this case? Could Judge Kelland have heard this case this time? Based on the rules. If so, put it in red. Again, if this Thursday is the first available date, then you would put a 1 here. And now, even if the courthouse is closed, if this is the correct date, then you would go down to 14 and just keep, you would keep doing this down to the number 14. And when you get to 14, if it's a date that they're hearing cases, Judge Kelland is hearing cases, then you would put that row in red. If it's not, then you wouldn't. Then you would go on to the next time that he's hearing cases. Please call me or contact me by course message if you have problems with this. Criteria is the correct 3-day notice, 6 points, 14-day notice, using the Excel spreadsheet correctly. Why do I want you to do that elaborate thing? 1 down to 3, and then again 0, and then 1 through 14. Because if you show your work, it's easier for the lawyer to double check you, and obviously in class it's easier for me to double check you and see if you're thinking right about the rules. So, are you using the rules correctly or not? are you counting? So I can check you. And a lawyer would want to know that you can do the count correctly. And then, of course, it's also a check on rule application. Often the rules of civil procedure for your state. Do you have the correct notice dates? Because 3 and 14 days are probably not right. They are correct for this, for our calendar. For work, use the correct ones. So for our calendar, use the 3 and 14 day notice that I taught you, and for law office work, look up rules. So, in other words, we're not doing state specifics this time. Just fictional rules. Okay, so know that each state has their own, but we're just using the fictional rules. 3-day short, 14-day with weekends. And don't forget, 3-day weekends do not count. Okay, weekends do count for the 14-day. It's, once you've done it concretely, I think it will all make sense to you. Again, call or text or course message as needed. Time map, software choices, pros and cons, and mechanics.